Hey guys, heading back with another short video on basically how I've practiced over the years and where I've gotten from one place to another. Um, so what I've got here on screen is something I did in 2014 and then something I did like literally 2-3 days ago. Um, and you can see there's a good bit of difference, right? I mean, 6 years of practice will do that, hopefully. But I'm not gonna lie, like when it comes to like how I did things, I considered myself to be quite lazy and not optimally practiced, right? So I don't feel like I practiced as well as I could have, or really stuck to a schedule as much as I should have. But with that being said, it's also important to like not overdo it, because just as quickly as you could, get really inspired and start knocking things out, you can really burn yourself out just as quick. So it's possible that like maybe I did do it optimally. Maybe if I would have pushed myself any further, then I would have just been burnt out all the time, which I still experienced plenty of burnout. It's still, even today, I experience plenty of burnout. But either which way you have it, you can see clearly that the one I did in 2014 is kind of flat. It doesn't have a lot of dimension. I was too afraid to even go past the shoulders, right? So I just did the bust, and I didn't want to draw the hands, and I didn't want to draw the waist. I didn't want to draw the elbows. So I just stopped here because I was so worried about messing this piece up that this is as far as I could have got, or this is as far as I wanted to go, right? Which is a huge mistake. You should never be like that. You should always try to draw as much of an image as you can, right? Otherwise, you're going to only practice the head. I talked about this in a previous video. Anyways, so this is like, I drew this right before I started taking art seriously. And started right before I started making it like my career path, right? So I don't, there we go. I can just select this. Yeah, sorry if I'm like not all together right now. It's early in, well, it's not early in the morning. It's 3 p.m., but it's early for me because I'm not a human, I guess. I don't really sleep normally. Which, if you don't know, this is a character from Gravity Rush. Highly recommend the game. It's fantastic. But the first thing that I would say that's important to practice is, and this is going to be so frustrating for a lot of people because everyone says this, practice your fundamentals, right? Boxes, right? So like if you look at this image, which is from a comic that I've drawn or started working on but haven't quite got around to finishing it yet, if you look at this image, everything's basically just boxes. Even the trucks and stuff down here are just boxes. You got some birds. Everything is a box, right? And this seems like a lot of stuff, but it's really not. It's really, really not. It's just boxes on boxes on boxes. Granted, I did use the perspective tool in Clip to do this, but you don't need to, right? Perspective is really simplistic, right? So you got your horizon line, and then you're going to have your, I forget exactly what this is called. We're just going to call it the vertical line. And so you have your center dot right here, right? And granted, this is 1 point perspective. If you don't know what perspective is, in terms of like art, I really recommend finding somebody, like searching the term 1 point perspective, 2 point perspective, 3 point perspective, and getting a good grasp on what those even mean. I'm probably not going to cover them very well here, but I will say that right now this is 1 point perspective, and I recommend looking further into it past what I express here. But this is a good practice tool. It's actually more than just a practice tool. It is factually how to keep things into perspective. So if you take, just like I did here, I drew a line, right, from the center point, which is the vanishing point, up to here. and it didn't matter the angle I chose, because as long as I follow a line straight from these two lines and straight down here, right? As long as I do that, which if you're doing this traditionally, then a roller would be how you get lines like this. No one, some people do. Some people do, and I can actually, I'm aware of people that actually do point perspective freehand. It's not easy. It takes a lot of practice. But anyways, as you can see here, I'm just adding boxes, right? So I'm going to do something similar to, I'm not going to finish it, but something similar to how I did it earlier, where I'm just adding boxes. And what this is going to do in terms of practicing, this is going to really help you establish what it even means to like work in a 3D space, because that's really what you're trying to do here. You're trying to understand 3D space in general, and that's one of the most crucial things to build up as an artist, is your understanding of what 3D space even looks like, right? So a lot of what I'm doing right now, I can imagine in my head what the 3D space is, like how much this one object right here might take up, right? And that's from years of just practice and understanding what it means, like I said, to even exist in a 3D space. And this is like, understanding 3D space isn't just about getting proportions right. It's also about understanding how light functions in a 3D space. If you don't understand 3D space at all, then you're not going to understand shading. You're not going to understand proportions, perspective, all of that stuff. That's why it's so important to build up that understanding of 3D space. Anyway, so you can see right here where all I did was just do some really basic lining. And and look, it's basic buildings, right? And you can go in here and you can add windows and stuff and whatever, but that's really all that you needed to do there to get a slight grasp of what that 3D space looks like. And if you were to do this and then keep going, you could easily end up right here. I think this whole image didn't take me but like a couple hours. Obviously I don't have that time to spare here, but you can see what I mean. Anyways, I'm gonna flip back over to this, which this is still 1 point perspective, but it's done differently than how I normally do perspective. Let me see if I can't find the original sketches. Oh god, it's been so long since I've looked at this. This is at least, okay, here it is. Alright, so this is gonna be pretty complicated looking, but it actually still is using 1 point perspective. It's just, I took 1 point perspective and then added some spirals to it, right? So you can see that this would be your vanishing point, right? And that this would be that vertical line that I drew, right? And as long as you follow these lines out and then keep that simple curve, right? And I'm not showing you this so you can try to replicate it. I'm showing you this to show you how you can build off of your understanding of 3D space and then keep using it, right? So now that I took that 3D space, I warped it, right? And then I pushed it further to here, and then I pushed it even further to this point. Granted, you can see where it's starting to go back, and that's just me not staying faithful to the original perspective lines. Sorry, I don't know why this popped up, but it did. Anyways, it's just Clip Studio's recovery just in case something fails. Anyways, you can still see the initial perspective, right? So it's kind of like this, it's kind of like this. Everything in here, like if you look at her fist, it's going to kind of warp like that. If you look at like her tail, it's going to warp like that. If you look at the tree right here, it should warp, not like that, but like this, right? So it should have like a slight lean to, and that's how you take 1 point perspective and you build off of that. And you wouldn't be able to do that, and I definitely wouldn't be able to do that without an understanding of 3D space. And it doesn't seem like the same thing applies here, right? Where it's like, obviously what I just did is only boxes, right? No, that's not true at all. And I can show you right now that even in here, understanding 3D space was so important, especially, I say especially, but everywhere. Understanding 3D space was massively important to this piece. And then building that idea of 3D space off of that, right, will, like, the more you do it, just the more you'll intuitively start applying it to everything else, which I kind of didn't do that right, but anyways. So if we take these lines right here that I just did around this box, right? If we take them and we follow them, which they're not going to be perfect, but they don't have to be. When we follow them out, right? You're going to quickly start to see what I did here. And I did it without doing these lines because at some point you will build up the ability to do it without, you know, following this exact thing. But anyways, so now we have this thing right here, and it's some kind of like meat, I don't know, crab with butter, I guess that's what it is. But you can clearly see I did the same thing there, right? And that seems like so trivial until you realize that if I didn't understand the 3D space on that, I wouldn't have known the way the butter was going to be here, right? I wouldn't have known how to slightly off-center the butter and then have it drip down and then have the light reflect right here but not here, you know? And it's so important that you understand how like, okay, here's a good example. If you see this hump right here, that's blocking stuff back here, right? Because 3D space, right? Because you're going to see things in perspective no matter how you look at it. It's always in perspective. And doing the basic fundamentals of 1-point, 2-point, and 3-point perspective, understanding what they mean and building off of that is crucial to building everything else when it comes to illustrations. Even so much to the point to where it's like, I don't quite always get it. And I'm still very much a practicing artist. Anyways, here's another example of perspective. Same character, right? But yeah, and then granted, I did all this freehand, so. Anyways, I guess the main point of today's video was understand 3D perspective, build off your fundamentals, which I know a lot of the times you'll see people break characters down into simple fundamental shapes, and then that's like, oh, that's just so you understand anatomy. No, that basically, I mean, it does help with anatomy, but that's all about perspective. Understanding where things are in this 3D space, right? So you can do the same thing here, where I drew it earlier. Understanding where things are in 3D space, right? So 1-point perspective says that if I were to draw a pelvis right here, this pelvis would need to point this direction. If I draw an arm right here, this arm needs to point this direction. If I were to draw this character's face, right? If we add a center line to the face, we know that this eye is going to be more visible than this eye, right? It's going to get smaller as it's pushed further and deeper into the background. Anyways, I hope this video was useful. If it was, subscribe. Really, what I tried to do here was just throw some terms out there, some keywords for you guys to be like, okay, I didn't even know what that was called. Hopefully you learned something. If you did, like, subscribe. I don't really care if you share. This is me just kind of trying to throw my word out there into the world. But until next time, guys, I'll see you later. Peace out.